What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Isolation Podcast. You guys already know what it is. One man with one focus, and that's all buckets. But today, we're actually going to talk about recovery. I have a very special guest here with me to help break it down and, help explain the importance of recovery in an athlete's resume. Or regime, sorry. Regime, that's how it's pronounced. So, it's really important, that they take recovery seriously. Otherwise, who knows what could happen. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of injuries that could potentially occur, shortening of their careers. List goes on. But without further ado, I'll let him tell it. He can tell a lot better than I can. So I got my man Orion here with me. He is a licensed massage therapist and a certified personal trainer. Just want to throw that out there as well. Of course, you got to add his credentials, and in case any of y'all want to get a massage whenever the quarantine season's over, or maybe get fit, because quarantine season got a lot of us, including me, looking hefty. You know what I'm saying? But take the floor, Orion.
Man, hey, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am really, really excited to talk about recovery and the importance of recovery, just because it's just something that's not, as readily talked about as everything that goes on in an athlete's day-to-day, regime, right? It's really cool that there's somebody like you out there that understands why this is so important in the entire athlete's arsenal. So really excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, yeah, it's no problem at all, man. I'm glad that you do what you do, but not only do you do what you do, because a lot of people do what you do, but you're actually good at it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have those personal trainers that only focus on, you were telling me this earlier, they only focus on one aspect of training. They focus on the work. What do you have to work on in order to be stronger, in order to be faster? But there's so much more to it. You know what I'm saying? You have the work, but then what happens after the work?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what happens after the work. You know the importance of what happens after the work and how it helps create more work and improvement in work at that. So let's start out with some mental strength type of let's talk about the aspect of mental strength and mental recovery when it comes into actually putting in that work, and comes to grinding out like a full basketball season or a full workout for it's your fifth workout of the week, your last one before you take your 2-day break, and then you go back into it. Your fifth day is obviously your hardest day because it's the last day of the week. So kind of touch up on that. Like, what's the importance of having a tough mental frame when it
That's honestly, that's really where it all starts, is making sure that your mind is clear, making sure that your mind is filled with the right things, and the right things being things that help you grow as an athlete, things that help you get better as an athlete, and create longevity as an athlete, and as opposed to the stress, as opposed to the anxiety, and that's so prevalent these days, especially with everything going on. And it's really important to me that that you want to talk about that first, because especially during this time, athletes don't, you can't go play basketball right now. The gyms are closed, so all the normal equipment that you would have access to, you don't have access to that, and it happened all of a sudden. And so I think right now it's a really, really important time. It's one of the best opportunities that we've ever had to create routine, to create positive systems and put them in place, so that when we get out of quarantine, you have the mental stability there. You have that foundation already laid out. And the other benefit to that is, once you're already out there in the field and you're training, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the training aspect of it, getting up the shots, right? Working on your ball handling. But we're so focused on that, it might not be the best time to create a routine, or maybe I should say it probably wouldn't be as well of a time to create a routine as opposed to now, where you have time to really see what your body's responding to, right? As far as stretching, what you like doing, and what feels good to you, and things like that. So, I think right now is a really, really good opportunity. But
Oh, definitely. And just to kind of touch up on what you just said, it'll be a lot easier coming out of quarantine when the gyms are open if you are prepared. You know what I'm saying? If you know your body, like you said, if you know what stretches to do, and what stretches to do the most, and what to do first, and then you have your workouts that you like to do that make you feel comfortable and are still very effective. When the gym opens, it's so much easier. You know what I'm saying? Because for one, people are more motivated to work out when they work out at a gym, because for one, the commute, the fact that they have to travel from their house over somewhere, that's motivating in itself, just because it's like, I'm not here to waste my gas, I'm not here to waste my money that I'm paying on this membership, so I have to work out. You know what I'm saying? That's the motivation normally, or there's a lot of things that go into it, but it's all gonna get easier if we're prepared by the time quarantine season is over.
Exactly. And preparation is key. So right now, even though, we can't go out there and work out like we want to, we can do the research. We can do the research and see what are good stretches for hips, what are good stretches for, my upper body, right? What are good stretches for my shoulders, for my calves, understanding how important it is to work on these things, and, the effect that it has on the body. So even, it's really, I'm always reminded whenever I'm talking about this kind of stuff, I'm always reminded of Kobe, because his mental, game is so amazing. It's just incredible. I was just watching a video before we got on earlier today. I was watching a video where he was talking about meditation, and he starts off the video talking about kind of certain things that he's gonna prescribe to you and what you should do. The first thing he talks about is sleep. He says get an extra 30 minutes of sleep, and his reason why, he said when he was younger and he was working out, he was training and he was just doing what he does, being Kobe. He said he had a couple games where he wasn't performing at the level that he knew he could perform at. So he asked himself, he said, we know what's going on. Like, why am I not performing? I've put in the work, I've put in the training, but how come my body doesn't want to do what I'm asking it to do? And then he realized it was sleep.
Right. Yeah. And he's made points that I've heard him say it throughout his career. Well, throughout the latter end of his career, that he'll take a nap before a game, right before the game in the locker room, if he needs to.
Wow.
He'll take a nap. So it usually happens at some point before the game, like leading up to it. But if he has to right before the game, he will. Even though, when you wake up, you tend to wake up, groggy sometimes, depending on how it is. But a 30-minute nap or a 20-minute nap, I take 20-minute naps all the time, when I wake up energized, ready to go.
Right.
So
But
that 20, 30-minute time frame for a nap is actually very, very useful,
Yeah, it can be. What the what most people might not think about in what you just said is, see, he's able to do this later on in his career, and even like in the middle part of his career, because he was doing that a lot younger. So he was understanding what his body responds to. He was learning himself, right? He was knowing, he was looking in, and it's just like the expression, know yourself. So the earlier you get started with taking naps, right? If you need it, but experimenting with that, how it works for you, for your particular body type. If you experiment with stretching, if you experiment with sleep schedule, seeing, okay, let me train for this week, and I'm going to sleep, this many hours, and then the next week, you adjust it, and then you can kind of tell the difference between, how your body feels. Once you start that, the earlier you start that, the better you know yourself as your career progresses. And
Right.
really, that's the key. That is one of the biggest things.
Big facts. And speaking of, people having to know themselves, let's bring up a guy that knows himself more than probably anybody else knows themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like I
Dennis
know who you're
Rodman.
talking about. Yeah.
Dennis Rodman.
Yes.
Dennis Rodman. So
Yes.
The Last Dance episodes 3 and 4 just aired the other night, and it was mostly pertaining to Dennis Rodman. And of course, they bring up the 48-hour vacation that he had when he went to Vegas in the middle of the season. And this was the season where it was the 96 season where where Scotty was out, and so Dennis had to pick up slack, due to Scotty's absence. And then he got to the point where he was like, Mike, I need a vacation.
Right.
In the middle of the season, he's talking about I need a vacation, and then he's like, there's no way, no, you can't do that. You know what I mean? He asked Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson's just like, you got 48 hours, man. Do what you got to do in those 2 days, and be ready to practice when you come back. He did all that. 48 hours in Vegas with Carmen Electra, Dennis Rodman. We all know how he is. We all know what he's done. You know what I'm saying? And for him to do that in the middle of the season, come back, practice like it's nothing, and then continue to play every single game for the rest of the season, play in the playoffs. Obviously, they ended up winning the championship that year. So that's an extra at least 16 games.
Yeah.
On top.
Right.
At least.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And more intense too, and more intense, right?
Right. So, how do you think? So, do you think that he was able to do all that because he knows himself, or does he have like an extra gear in his mental drive? Like, what would you kind of say that that is a like what is that from? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, both of those things that you mentioned, they come from him knowing himself as an individual, right? He's an icon, man. I mean, for him to be doing everything that he was doing outside of the court, right? Being comfortable with the way that he wanted to dress, and interact people the way he wanted to interact with people. He was so he was so non-judgmental towards himself, right? And the thing is, that's not easy to do for people. It's a very difficult thing to do for a lot of people. It's difficult for me to do. I struggle with it like everyone else struggles with it, but the way you get past that, the way that you understand yourself and you can actually know yourself is by asking yourself these questions, asking yourself who am I as an individual, but who am I as an athlete, and that goes right back to, paying attention and looking at who you are as a player.
Right.
Another aspect of that too, a lot of people that are struggling with that, a good resource for that would be, something like meditation, starting up, different practices that will definitely will translate into your game.
So do me a favor, can you kind of explain? I feel like people get meditating misconstrued, like the meaning of it, I should say. They kind of get it, confused. They think that it's, sit crisscross applesauce,
right?
Hands like this,
Yes, yeah.
Just either just sit there in silence or sit there saying, But there's so much more to meditating. I know that. So kind of,
I'll simplify it. Yeah.
Yeah, simplify the actual, definition of meditating.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. So in that video that we were just talking about with Kobe, he actually talked about how he was introduced to meditating, and it was through Phil Jackson. And the difference, and the difference that it made for him is Phil explained meditation to him through the lens of basketball, and
Yes.
and Kobe says himself, he said when he introduced it to me in that way, when he said, look, meditating will translate into better performance. And when he explained it to him how, that's what really sparked his curiosity. And that's what made him, dive into that world. And ultimately ended up, benefiting him in many ways. But the easiest way I explain meditation, is the idea that, if I'm standing here and I'm talking to you, but my hand is just going every single direction and it's just moving around. You're going to look at me like, bro, what is wrong with your arm? Why is your arm going in every single direction? So my arm is my tool. You know what I mean? If I want to move it somewhere, I'll move it. If I don't, it should be able to just hang out, and not go crazy without me asking it to. So the mind does the same thing. Every single day from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, your mind is in so many different places. It'll dive back into the past and think about something that happened 20 years ago. It'll go ahead into the future and think about, what if this happens? What if that happens? Something will distract you. So your mind goes in every single direction.
Right, and prior to this, we were just talking about, another example of that is, when you have a conversation with somebody, and then afterwards, just randomly, like you're already like 3 hours. It's 3 hours later. You're somewhere else. You're doing something else, and out of nowhere, you're thinking, "Did I really just say that?"
Right.
In that conversation, or like you think about what you could have said.
Yeah.
Things like that. So
yeah,
I get what you're saying.
So when you meditate, the easiest way to think about meditation is just this. So when you close your eyes, the only thing you have to do is just listen to what the dialogue is in your head. Just think about what's going on. How you can translate this into balling is you look at what you're telling yourself about yourself as a player. Is the conversation in your mind, I suck. I'm not good at all. I don't have a good shot. I'm horrible at this. Or is the conversation in your mind, this is what I need to work on. This is what I can get better at. And just looking at the distinction between those two can be a game changer. It can change everything.
Yeah. All right, and the ultimate goal of meditating is to, in a simple term, ease your mind, right?
Yeah, the ultimate goal in meditation. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it, but I think how it would relate to this is not replaying the same story in your head that's making you worse as an athlete. That's making your performance, like it's hindering you from being your best. From excelling and getting better and staying. And another thing is too, when you're out there, when you're playing ball, there's so many dynamics that are happening, right? Especially at the highest level, right? If you're playing organized sport like high school, college, whatever, pros, you've got people in the sitting down watching you play. You have opponents trying to get in your head. You've got other teammates that might have lost confidence in themselves and they're dragging you down with them. So the more you can practice closing your eyes, understanding what the dialogue is going on in your head and not identifying with it. That's the key. Not identifying with it, understanding that, there's a conversation happening, but is that a conversation that I want to happen? And realizing that you are the controller. You decide what you want to think about. You're not a victim to that. So if you can already win that battle in your head, and not be weighed down by your own thoughts, then if something happens outside, enough about yourself so that, you can steer away from that. You can come out of that situation, and not be as affected by it as if you didn't, put in the work, as if you didn't, take a second and understand what's happening, in your mind. And just kind of letting that relax, the entire situation could turn out totally different.
Okay, I get what you're saying. And so, whenever you guys think about Kobe's game winners and how he's done it, and everyone, for the haters that want to bring up how many game winners he's missed versus made, you can think about this as well. The fact that, he was very comfortable knowing himself, knowing the fact that if he makes it, great, they win. If he misses, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
for him to be conscious of that and to accept it, be okay with it, that's a huge thing, and that's due to his meditation.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
facts. So let's go ahead and move on to the physical aspects of recovery.
All right.
But the first thing is, what is fascia?
Fascia. Fascia is
Yeah, you said that word to me before, so I want to know what it is.
fascia is incredibly important, and we are learning more and more about it. Now we're learning actually more than ever about it now. Fascia is the best way to think about it is a network of connective tissue. You can think of it almost like a giant spider web, layers and layers of spider webs underneath your skin that goes throughout your muscles, that surrounds your muscles. It surrounds all of your organs. It's what keeps the organs in place. Essentially, it's almost like if you had a bridge, like a cable bridge. So you've got long metal structures, and you've got cables that are holding it in place. But those cables are pulling from both ends, keeping that structure stable. But if one of those cables were pulling a little too much, that structure would tilt and lean towards that side. So fascia is that connective tissue underneath, but also keeps the bones, keeps everything balanced and aligned. So
where exactly in recovery is fascia? I feel like this is a general question, but
Yeah.
where is that most important? Like what aspect of recovery is fascia so important?
Yeah, that's a great question. So fascia is actually, it plays a huge role in movement in general, okay? And it's a huge role. The best way to think about that is, if you have tight fascia, your muscles won't be able to move as well as, if the fascia was in good health. The best way to think about it is, imagine I'm wearing a surfing suit, right? Like a tight bodysuit. And I'm wearing a size, 2 sizes smaller than what I should be wearing. So if that happens, I'm not going to be able to, move my arms and walk properly because that suit is constricting my movement. So
Yeah, it's so tight.
yeah, it's so tight. So a lot of times what we'll see is, people, we'll see athletes and things like that perform, or I'm sorry, they'll go hit the weights and work on bench press, working on, the chest, but they don't really follow up with the stretching aspect of it, after that. So if the chest gets really tight, right, it starts to bring your shoulders forward. And if the shoulders come forward, the muscles in the back are actually pulling, right? Because it's following the shoulders rolling forward. So you're pulling the muscles in the back. So a lot of times you'll feel pain, in the back, in between the shoulder blades, in the neck, and places like that. But really, it's because the body is so tight and it's pulling you forward that you're feeling that there. So the same thing with training, right? Training and working out. If you're tight, you're not going to be able to move as well as if you were loose.
With tightness being an issue in a human's body, so obviously we have to stretch in order to alleviate the tightness, in order to move as freely as we possibly can. So there's obviously a lot of different stretches out there. People even try to make stretches up, but is there a right way and a wrong way to stretch, or is just
Yes.
as long as you're extending your arm, it's stretching, or as long as you're extending your leg, it's stretching? Does that qualify?
So that answer to that question is a huge yes. There's definitely a right way to stretch and a wrong way to stretch. And whenever you are stretching, the most important thing is that you don't injure yourself, or make yourself more prone to injury. The best way you want to think about stretching, what I tell my clients when I'm working on them, is think of it almost as a seatbelt. So if you pull that seatbelt a little too fast, the car's defense mechanism is going to kick in and it's going to stop the seatbelt from moving. So even though your body's not going to stop it from moving, your muscles will respond a lot better if you get into a stretch and ease into that stretch versus if you quickly get into that stretch your mind actually will tighten up a little bit, because it's a defense mechanism. Your body at the end of the day, your body's going to do everything it can to protect you. So if you go too fast into a stretch, not only will your body kind of send those signals to your brain that, whoa, stop, you have a greater risk of hurting yourself, maybe pulling something, tearing something. So it's really important that take the time and understand yourself, your body, or pick out a couple parts that you wanna stretch out, and then do the research to see what are proper stretches for those body parts. That's one of the most important things to do.
Absolutely. Okay. And for all y'all trying to wonder, what are good stretch techniques and, for certain areas of the body, go check out his page. He has tutorial videos of those all throughout the page for different parts of the body. More so the more important parts of the body, in my opinion, as far as, the neck, the legs, back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So definitely go ahead and check that out. But what is a good way to start stretching? What body part is the best body part to begin stretching with, or is that even a thing? Does it matter?
No, I mean it's a good question, because there are certain stretches that are a little more complicated than others, right? And there are certain stretches that'll put you more at risk of injury than other stretches do. A really good way to kind of to begin is just doing very easy and simple stretches for things like your calves, doing stretches for your hips, doing stretches for your back, doing stretches, in those general areas is probably the best way to do it. There's a lot of stretches that you can find if you just explore, even exploring things like yoga, right? There's so many easy stretches that you can do just to start. That's probably one of the best ways to go about if you're just beginning, is to go into something like yoga, learn about it. There's a lot of tutorials, things like that online. I've got a few of them on my IG. You're welcome to go ahead and check those out. And of course, if you're new to this, for whoever's watching and you have any questions about it, reach out to either one of us. Reach out to Ty. I'm sure he'll ask me for my 2 cents in it, or you could just reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to do a video about it.
Facts. All right. So with recovery, so there's a lot of, times where you'll see people icing their knees, icing their ankles, icing different parts of their body. And there's a lot of times where people, so that is what people normally see when they see recovery. They see them icing themselves. You know what I'm saying? But we both know that icing is not just enough, But can you explain why icing is not enough? What does icing coexist with in the world of recovery?
So icing is a really valuable tool. Icing helps with inflammation. There's a few different studies you can find online. Some studies have, suggested that it increases white blood cells, helps to recover a little easier. If you look at Navy SEALs, those guys are training in the cold all the time. They're huge proponents of cold showers. And of course, you see the athletes right after they're using it, right after they're putting their body through so much intense movement and just consistent pounding on their knees and all that. Icing will help to keep that inflammation down. And as the blood goes into that area, starts recirculating in that area, it helps it pretty much speeds up the recovering process. Again, but that's something that almost everybody would have access to just use right away to see if it has an effect on their body. Trial and error is the best thing to do, but that won't really help too much with muscles lengthening. There's so much other aspects to a human body, and there's so many other different things that we can do to help with recovery other than ice. So there's a really famous video out there of LeBron James, like a raw workout, like an hour raw workout with his trainer. Then right at the end, before the video finishes, there's 10 minutes of his trainer working on his body, and stretching it out. And like that just speaks volumes right there. If somebody like LeBron James, right after he's training, he's taking the time to take his bodies through little bits of stretching, and focusing on that recovery, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that use like I'm not sure if I'm gonna pronounce this right, but they use like cryotherapy.
Cryotherapy, yes. Yeah.
Cryotherapy.
Yeah.
Cryotherapy.
Yeah.
So they use, a lot of athletes use that.
Yes.
We've seen actually Dwayne Wade is a huge advocate of that.
Yeah. Cryotherapy.
I've seen him use it a lot in his like Instagram stories or his Snapchat stories, things like that.
Yes.
Go ahead. Can you explain what that is?
So it's pretty much the same as doing like a ice bath or something like that, but just on a different level. It vasoconstricts your blood vessels. It helps to push out some of that lactic acid, and when that blood starts to come back in there and starts to recirculate, it helps deliver more oxygen to the muscles, and it just, like I said, it speeds up that recovery process a lot faster. That's a good one. There's also the hyperbaric chamber, where you're getting more concentrated oxygen in a confined space. Hyperbaric, that's really important too. If you have access to that, what that actually does is, since you're taking in so much more oxygen, you're having a lot more of that oxygen go into each of your cells. So there's been studies to show that once you get out of the hyperbaric chamber, your body has something like 400% more oxygen within the body to help with its recovery, right? So it's it's amazing.
Definitely, and for any of you that may also be Dragon Ball Z fans, you know about the hyperbaric chamber. Whenever Goku goes in there, and to recharge, make sure he's at full strength to go fight Frieza, Cell, etc. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's real. It's real. When he comes back with the spirit bomb because he's so strong, there's life lessons in the cartoons and the shows that we grew up on, people. You know what I'm saying? We gotta just pick and choose and understand where they're at.
You might come out of there and be able to do a Kamehameha wave, man. You don't know. You might be able to do it.
You don't know at all. You know what I'm saying?
Might just transform mid-game.
Yeah, Super Saiyan and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And out of nowhere, you're out there dunking like Russ. Shooting shots like Steph from half court. Stuff like that. But let's touch on the massage therapist aspects of what you do real quick.
Yep.
So there are there are massage parlors and whatnot that also have like specific rooms as well to kind of just sit in. Like, you have your sauna, you have your steam room, but then you have other rooms where they're made out of like different stone, things like that. I don't know the exact term, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to paint the picture for you so you can go ahead and describe it to the people.
Yeah,
but do you?
Yeah.
But you know about these rooms that I'm talking about, right? Where you go. I think one of them is like looks like
a salt room.
Stone.
Yeah, it's not painted.
I know it's not painted.
Yeah, so there's but you're right though. There is different rooms with different things because there's different affects the body very differently. So you have things like a salt room. A salt room is really important because salt rooms actually ionize the atmosphere. I used to work at a place that had a huge space that was just made out of salt, and people would just go in there and just sit inside for a little bit and would just hang out, and it helped to re-energize their body a little bit. So yeah, there's all these different rooms in with massage therapy and any massage establishment that you go to. But massage is really important. Massage is one of we're starting to understand now a lot more, and as science progresses, as more and more people step up and do more research about about massage, we can really start to understand the effects that it would have on a human body. But there's so much to be said about movement of blood, throughout the body. And there's so much to be said about doing.
That's why they have those massages, the suction cup massages.
Yeah, that's a little different. So you're talking about the cupping, right? So you're talking about like that year, very famously, Michael Phelps had those red marks all over his body, right? That's what you're talking about. Yes.
Right.
So what that does, so when we massage and we use our hands, we use our knuckles, we're pressing into the tissue. right? When we use cups, we're actually lifting the skin away from the muscles, and we're creating a little bit of space within the muscle and the skin itself, and we're allowing more blood flow to get into those areas. Now, if you remember, what's in between the skin and the muscles is your fascia. So now you're getting a little more blood flow into the fascia. You're stretching out the fascia by pulling on it. Same way if you were to pinch your cheek and pull on the cheek, you're stretching it. So it's no different with the cup. When you set a cup on there, create that suction, it's stretching the skin in that area, and that helps tremendously with movement, with a little more blood flow into that area, and it's a great treatment.
Okay, so I noticed that you speak on blood flow a lot, and you speak on these different methods in order to create more blood flow. Can you talk about the importance of blood flow in an athlete's game?
Yeah, blood flow is really, really important. Okay, so the biggest effect that blood flow has in the body is not just in the arms or the legs or anything like that, but also the mind. When you have a lack of proper blood flow, there's been many studies that have been done very famously by a most recent and very famous study that was done, or book that was out by a doctor named Dr. Amen, A-M-E-N, and he talks about actually the end to mental illness, and he attributes a lot of these issues to lack of blood flow. He has a TED Talk. He's famous for doing the most brain scans on Earth in history, and so that's where you have the biggest effect is the mind. But when it comes to the body, blood flow helps the repair process so much. It helps the repair process, and it speeds up the repair process as well. So let's say, for example, you have a tight muscle, right? Most people will call it a muscle knot, right? And pretty much what that means is, you have muscles that lengthen, and then there are tiny little markers within the muscle that close, that allow the muscles to contract and then to open back up. So these tiny little markers in the muscle are stuck in a closed position. So that little nodule that you feel, that's called a muscle knot. Sometimes if you press on that, you feel that pain somewhere else. It's called a trigger point. That's how we define those things. So if the muscle is tight, then obviously there's no blood flow going throughout that muscle. So that's contributing to the lack of flexibility, the lack of movement. A lot of times you'll find that when muscles are stuck in that contracted position, they're not as strong. So you have a little bit of weakness as well. So blood flow is really important.
Oh, it's got to be. I mean, besides the obvious, blood flow for us living. And
yeah, exactly. Right.
So there's so many different ways to recover, so many different ways to rest and whatnot, especially during this time. But for you, do you have any suggestions to the people, like something that they can do at home?
Yeah. First thing, I'll preface that by saying right now is such an important time to experiment with these things, because we have so much time on our hands right now, and it's important to get into a routine. So when we come out of this, like we touched on it, we have that in our arsenal already. But right now, I would definitely look into stretching. First and foremost, look into stretching. I would look into investing in a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball to actually perform like self-massage, since we don't have access to massage establishments right now, since they're all closed. I would invest in that. There are also things like Theracanes. Theracanes are like it's like just like a curved walking cane with a ball at the end of it that you can hook around your back and kind of dig into behind the shoulders. I would invest in that. I've also used a few of like.
I might invest in that.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. It's easy to do because obviously we can't reach back there, right? So you have this little hook, and it helps to kind of dig into right between that shoulder blade.
So it's like a back scratcher, but it's a back massager.
That's exactly right. It's just like a back scratcher, and it's hooked, so you can get it behind your shoulder blades and pull on it this way, and then so it's just hooking into the back, hooking into between the shoulder blades. Yeah, that's a really great thing to invest in. So we've all seen like the self-massagers that people use, like the Hypervolts in the world, the Theraguns in the world.
I was thinking about investing into that.
Yeah, so that's a really that's a really great investment, right? Because you'll see pro athletes use that on the sidelines, right? Like while they're playing, basketball, you'll see them using that. For sure, they'll have it, in the
Right, to stay loose.
yeah, exactly, to stay loose. And again, that helps with a little more blood flow, and they can kind of centralize where they want a little bit more of the effect, right? So they can put that to their hip.
Right. Basketball players use that for the same reason why NFL players use treadmills. Or bikes. I mean, they use bikes on the sidelines.
Yeah, you'll see NFL players use that too. You'll see them. You'll see them as well. You'll see that it's that percussion device. So it really helps with a little more blood flow and at central points, at localized points of the body, and it helps to loosen up the muscle. The vibration will help it to kind of relax a little bit. There's so many benefits to it.
Sounds like it, man. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna kind of wind this interview down. I just have 3 basketball purely related questions for you.
All right.
Gotta get the people some basketball info.
Let's go
on you. So let's start out with, who is your favorite player in the league today?
Oh, in the league today, LeBron.
Okay. What makes him your favorite player today? Like, what makes him cause you to watch him in awe?
There's so many different things that I can talk about. One of my favorite things about LeBron is just how explosive he is, and it's just
at 36.
Yeah, just as a fan, right? I just love seeing that, right? I mean, this dude is 36 years old, just leaping like incredible heights right now, and just dunking on people, man. He's still killing it. That's just, and I mean, for me, that's the excitement factor of it. Is going out there and seeing him, and just the consistency. I mean, he's made it to how many finals now, no matter what team he's on. So it's just I just love seeing him play.
Yeah, he made it to 8 straight finals. That is a very difficult feat to accomplish.
Yeah, that's incredible.
8 straight finals.
That's incredible.
He didn't win them all, but he went to them all, and there's a few of them where we had to carry the team as well. Like in the 2015 finals against the Cavs' first finals matchup against the Warriors, where the Warriors ended up winning, but LeBron had to carry the load because he had no Kyrie,
no Kevin Love, right?
The next player he had to look to was Matthew Dellavedova.
Yeah.
Come on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So for him, and he dropped like 50-point triple doubles, things like that. So for him to perform like that all throughout the season, all throughout the playoffs, get to the finals 8 straight years, it speaks a lot onto how seriously he takes recovery.
Yeah.
And how serious he takes the training aspect of, his lifestyle. And granted, we all don't have $1 million, to use every year on our health, but there's the reason why he spends that is because he's gotten to a spot in his life where, obviously what he's doing is making him that money, but what he's doing is taking up all of his time. So he's paying people to prepare meals for him, meals that go within his diet. He's paying somebody to, train him and make sure that his training sessions are concise, to the time frames that he has available for that. Because, he still has, on some days he has games. Or he's a movie star now, with Space Jam 2 that he was working on. He has his whole movie production company. He has his investments. So many different things that go on throughout his 24-hour day. The same 24 hours we all get. You know what I'm saying? He has no choice but to use his money, which is something that we won't get back versus time. I mean, something that we can get back versus time, something that we won't get back. And speaking 100%. Of time, that's something that we all, the people that don't have the millions of dollars, have nothing but is time.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's now time to really care about our health and think about the procedures that we can develop for ourselves and for recovering our body, stretching our body, working out our body, and then doing it all over again. You know what I'm saying? While making sure that by the end of the quarantine, we have, you know, we have developed a what's that word I'm looking for?
Routine.
We have developed a routine. Thank you. We developed a routine, you know what I mean, that will be able to, that we can implement our, you know, what we've developed throughout quarantine, implement into our regular day when we go get our jobs back.
Absolutely.
Lose 8 hours of that day.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So the whole, you know, loving LeBron is definitely something I can't knock you on. You know what I'm saying? Just because, you know, he is like the epitome of what every, you know, massage therapist, personal trainer, you know, anybody would love to, you know, be able to work with, just because.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. You actually reminded me of something that is really important about that. So, I mean, it's one thing for, you know, me to go and treat someone and, you know, have a session where I'm working on, you know, the soft tissue, or, you know, I'm stretching them out, so on and so forth. But when the athlete, when my client is doing the things that they need to do on their end, it just enhances the work that I'm doing. You know, when you look at LeBron, and you're right, he is that athlete that people like me love and would love to work with, because one, he has a sense of how important this stuff is to his game, but he does all the right things off the court. You know, so and that makes my job so much easier. I mean, if I have an athlete that already has a stretching routine going on, the work that I have to do is going to be 10 times more beneficial, because we don't have to start from, you know, ground zero. We already have, you know, a good amount of flexibility, things like that. And, you know, one thing that I do want to touch on is something that Tim Grover talked about. Tim Grover, if any of you guys watching don't know, if you've been under a rock, he's a trainer for MJ, you know, trainer for Kobe, trainer for Wade, and you know, many other high level athletes. But one thing that he taught, I mean, this dude he's just an amazing trainer, amazing person. But you know, one thing that he talks about is when he goes and trains MJ, he goes, I'm not training him to make him a substantially better player. He goes, look, without me, MJ was still going to be the greatest athlete, you know, to ever play the game. But the greatest athletes do what they have to do to get a little bit of an edge. You know, they understand that, they got to put in the work, because they're doing so much. I'm only one aspect, you know, or a trainer is only one aspect, right? Nutritionist is only one aspect, but they have so many other dynamics that they got to deal with. So the work that I do, I mean, it's so beneficial, but for the greatest people in the world, that little bit of an edge, they understand it's the difference maker. It's the difference maker. So.
It's the difference maker between losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Bad Boy Pistons to sweeping them the next year.
Yes.
And then winning your first ship and then moving forward. You know what I'm saying? We're winning 5 more after that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Basically in a row. You know what I'm saying? And just to kind of add on to what you were saying, because I watched that interview of Tim, and it's essentially your job is to make them that 1% better. That's what he said. He said 1% better.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't think it's a lot, but like you said, it means it means everything. You know what I mean? Because it gives them that edge that they need to, you know, to have a LeBron and Kyrie figure it out to where they, you know, come back down 3-1.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
And end up beating, you know, a team where they ended up beating the Warriors, who ended up getting KD. But then you bring that energy to Kevin Durant, and you think about how he lost to LeBron in his first finals and now he's getting his rematch. You know,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
2017 finals, and where he completely dominated.
Yeah.
That series.
He did.
Back again.
He did.
And saw LeBron and dominated. Completely
Destroyed
dominated.
He destroyed it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's so crazy.
It's because they come back better than they were the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because everything that they have went through that first time, they do not want to go through it again,
Right.
because that's going to cause them agony in their mind, knowing that they didn't do anything to fix their situation.
Right. So, I mean, imagine for the athletes that are, still young in the industry, still getting started in the industry, even for somebody like me, I'm still very new into this, right? I'm still a student, always will be a student. But if these guys can put together a team around them right now, right, and build with that, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? I mean, you look at people like KD, you look at people like LeBron, when they maintain themselves, when they maintain their health, they're working with the team, not just on the court, but they've got a team of people around them that's helping them to perform better. So it's all about that. It's all about surrounding yourself with the right people that help elevate you, that help your mind, that help you stay positive, that help you recuperate properly, that give you the right advice for nutrition and training and all that. All of that stuff is you kind of give up that task to somebody who's spending their life worrying about that particular topic. Like, I'm spending my life worrying about soft tissue work and how someone can recover, or how I can get their hips to open up a little easier, or you know what I mean? I'm thinking about that. Like, the athlete themselves, when they should be worried about how they can perform and and kind of put the pieces together. That's just going to make it so much easier for them to do what they do and just excel.
All right, so let's go ahead and into our final question that I have for you. If you were to master, if you had to choose a skill in basketball to master, what would that skill be?
Well, give me the 3-point shot. I'll take the 3-point shot. I'll take the 3-point shot all day.
You want to be a Steph Curry?
Yeah, I would. I think it's really cool, man. I think just the way that he puts up some of those shots. I mean, it's Steph Curry. Oh my God, Steph Curry. Steph Curry, man. Just his release is insane. Like, I would love to have that skill, just to dribble on the fly, put up that shot so fast, and be on the other side, looking opposite way before the shot even goes down. That's an incredible skill. I'll take that one.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And just to kind of show how crazy of a skill it can be, you should look at anybody watching this should look up Ray Allen's tutorial of how he shoots the ball, because he shoots the ball in on average 0.6 seconds. For him to get the ball off in 0.6 seconds on average that's wild. That's
crazy.
That's from the point of catch to release.
That's from the point of catch
to release is 0.6 seconds.
Wow, that's amazing.
So for anybody that thinks that shooting a basketball is not a skill, just know it definitely is. You know what I'm saying? All right. Before we get out of here, is there anything else you'd like to say? Shout yourself out.
Yeah, you know what? I really want to say thank you to you for a couple reasons. One, because obviously you're giving me a platform to talk about recovery. We're having this conversation, which is so needed, and you can't find this type of conversation in too many places right now. But I'm sure that's going to change. But another reason why I want to say thank you to you is because there's a lot of therapists out there that don't know that they're therapists. Yeah. They don't know that they're therapists because this type of work that I do, the manual therapy, stretching, the soft tissue work, all that stuff, it's just now starting to kind of, grow. Right. So, there's so many people out there that are going to end up being therapists once they understand how they can help, and not just athletes, how they can help people that are in pain, people that have a hard time in their own skin, in their own body. When you can help somebody move better and relieve them of neck pain or shoulder pain or anything like that, the joy that I get from someone saying, you help me with this, like this is the reason why I'm pain free. That's one of the most meaningful things that someone could tell me, and it really makes me happy to hear something like that. So you given me this platform and allowing me to talk to these people. Who knows? We might end up helping somebody to find that they love doing this in their life, and so that's a big thing too. So thank you for that. Besides that, man, I want to thank a huge shout out to my school, Northwest Career College. They helped me out with just teaching me everything I need to know about massage and body work and therapy and all of that.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, so just want to say thank you to them. But besides that, man, this was fun. This was really great. Loved having this conversation.
Man. Thank you so much for hopping on and sharing your expertise and educating us on recovery and the mental aspects of it, the physical aspects of it, and the great things that it can provide for you, or if you don't do it, if you don't take it seriously, the bad things that it can bring your way. You know what I'm saying? So huge thank you to you. You know what I mean, for all that, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Oh, one last thing. I gotta give a shout out to all my fellow therapists out there, all my fellow trainers out there. Thank you for doing what you do, because all of you guys inspire me to keep on doing what I'm doing. I look to all of my peers and all of my friends as inspiration and as motivation to make myself better. I'm feeding off of you guys, as you do your thing. And yeah, let's continue to grow this industry, this field, and get it out there and make it big, for the world to understand its benefits. So huge shout out to all my fellow therapists out there.
Make sure y'all stay tuned for some more content, both isolation podcast content and also some Orion massage and therapy content. That is his @ name, by the way. And also HoopFanatic content.